Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Let's look at what's happening with identification. Now, some years ago, the National Identity Card was introduced by NIMC, which has the responsibility of providing the National Identity Card for Nigerians. Now, taking it a step further was the introduction or the planned introduction of the General Multipurpose Identity Card, which will do more than just identify the bearer, but also be able to help the holder of that card effect some financial transactions, as it will serve more than one purpose. You can use it as a debit card and so many other things. But the agency in charge, National Identity Management Center, has said Nigerians will have to pay for that general multipurpose card once it comes out. But first, what are the thoughts of Nigerians? What does our in-house analysts think about the National Identity Card serving more than one purpose? We have Sam Orovwuje, who is our in-house analyst and also Director, Center for Public Policy, in the studio with us this morning. I'm tempted to ask him if he now twins with me, because the color of his outfit is a bit close to what I'm wearing. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Blessing. My pleasure to be here.
Have you displaced Femi as my twin?
No, the
I don't know about that.
It's great to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
Beautiful.
Okay, I can see that. All right, looking at the General Multipurpose NIN Card, moving a step further from just identifying the holders of the cards to being able to perform some functions like being a debit card. What are your thoughts about it? Do you consider it too much information in just one card?
Thank you very much indeed, Blessing. But first and foremost, let's even look at the National Identity Card Management. We're over 200 and something million. They've just been able to just achieve 50% in terms of enrollment to the conventional card itself. Now that they want to make it a multi-purpose card, is a welcome development to a very large extent. But then what happened to the other platforms, and how do people migrate from the existing platform, particularly for payment? You cannot use them as debit, credit cards. Anyway, paying for them is not really the issue, because the other cards that you use, you equally pay for them to use those services. So if they want to have the cards warehoused in one platform, I think in terms of security, that to a very large extent will help in terms of securing those cards and securing Nigerians in terms of the platform they use. But then, when the DG of that commission mentioned that, Abisi Odusheta, he didn't really mention how much those payments will cost eventually. So I think it's in the works. When those things eventually come out, then we'll look at the desirability or otherwise of having those cards in one platform vis-a-vis the other service provider, how much they charge for their cards. But I think the beautiful thing is that they have a Nigerian platform that will take care of that. And that's deepening in terms of financial inclusion and improvement on technologies from Nigeria. In that regard, therefore, I think is welcoming.
All right, let me start by, shaking the table, talking about concerns being raised by Nigerians. I've read several comments as regards this news and this development. One of the concerns has to be why they need to pay for this. And I would like you to react to that, because the DG has said that Nigerians will have to pay for this. Then another concern has to be, won't this lead to duplication of cards? You have existing cards, you are performing these functions as we speak. By the time you now merge all these in one card, wouldn't it be like duplication of responsibility or duplication of these cards? How do you react to this?
First and foremost, within the mandate of the National Identity Card Commission, to get those identity cards is free. So the conventional cards is free. But if you want the multi-purpose that you can now use as a debit card or a credit card or other point of sales card, then you must pay for it. The other cards is being paid for by the users of those cards. So your ATM, you have a charge when you get an ATM from the card. So in terms of the desirability of using the national identity card like other payment platform, how workable would that be, considering the challenge of even enrolling Nigerians? Just about 50%, 107 million Nigerians are already in that platform. And we still have over 100 something million to be enrolled. I think, in my view, they should focus more on trying to bring more people into the national identity card because of the security, national security implication of putting people in that card. But then, for those who want to subscribe for multi-purpose, I think it's the right of place that they pay for the card, because every other card that people use, they pay for it. Even the dollar card that people use, even in Nigeria, they pay for those cards. So I don't think the payment is a major challenge. Is the efficiency in terms of how they can bring more people into that pool, in my view, is more essential, where we can identify Nigerians as real Nigerians before you talk about the multi-purpose aspect of the card.
All right, talking about the number of people that have been captured into the National Identity Management Commission's database, they say they have reached 107.3 million, showing a growth of 3.2 million from the 104 million reported as at the end of 2023. But still a far cry if it's estimated that there are over 200 million Nigerians, so 107.3 million, still a far cry from that. But coming to the general multipurpose card, let's look at the security of the card, safety of carrying this card. Now, if you carry your normal debit or credit card, which very few persons have, but if you carry your regular debit card, you are not asked to tender it as a form of identification. So it's only when you want to make a financial transaction that you need to maybe hand the card over. If you're doing transactions via POS, for instance, or if it's ATM by yourself, you do that. But if you're carrying a card that is also an identification for you and is also a debit card, it then means that at some point you will need to hand that card over to someone to maybe make a copy of it or to take a look at it to identify you. Given the usage of the card, do you think it is safe to also make it a card that has financial access?
I think first and foremost, the card is an identifier, so it has a future to identify you as a citizen of Nigeria. Number two, if you're going to use it for financial transaction, other points of sales activity, then what is important there is your security feature, which, like the other cards, are known to you. So I don't think that is a major challenge. But for me personally, I think the Commission should focus more in trying to enroll more Nigerians, pull more Nigerians into that pool to be able to identify exactly who are Nigerians, rather than this general multi-purpose function they are trying to put in the public space. My worries and my concern is that they should focus more in terms of the number of people they can bring into that platform who are really Nigerians. But then those who want to subscribe to the general multipurpose element, I don't think is not going to be made compulsory. People will be a choice to make a decision whether they want those features or whether they want additional feature in their card for the general purpose. So I don't think it's a major decision, because the card in itself has been made free unless you have some challenge in terms of the input you make into that card that you have to pay some money. So the worry should be more the number of persons. I'm not satisfied that just about 50% of the entire population that has just been enrolled into that platform. Focus should be more on how we can see Nigerians in that platform so that we can really count ourselves for the purpose of national planning and productivity.
Now, let's address the issue of enrollment and data collection process. You're aware of what happened when the national ID card was issued years back, the inefficiency and the kind of bottleneck that trailed that the collection of the card. Now that you have a multipurpose card, which is going to be very sensitive, whatever you have there could be used against the owner of the card. What kind of efficiency should be brought into the process this time around, now that we feel this card should serve more purposes than it used to? Given the experience of the past and the lessons we can draw from what happened in the past, what should be done differently now that we're looking in this direction?
I think essentially what is important is the security provision in those cards, particularly if you want to use them as debit or credit or other point of sales activities. So the security features must be so important that he does not get into the public domain, particularly the way people manage data in our environment. But by and large, if they want to make it general, they will take cognizance of the security feature that are inherent in producing cards, particularly for financial services. And they are working with the central bank to see how those features can be calibrated into those cards. But I'm not really worried about the authenticity of the cards, particularly the multi-purpose cards, once they come through, because you have IT specialists and contractors that have been recruited to see how that platform can be enabled to make it a general purpose card. But my worry, like I mentioned earlier, is that the Commission should focus more on how to pull more people into that platform in terms of our ability to identify who are really Nigerians, particularly with the kind of border, very porous border that we have as a country. But then, if those features are there, then the cumbersome of carrying so many cards around will equally be reduced. So it has some advantage, and that's why I use the word desirability of those who want to make a choice to use those cards that are embedded in the national identity card, whether for general purpose, whether for payments, whether for credit, whether for debit. Once those features are there, I don't think there's any security issue.
I wanted you to address the issue of the collection process. You know, what we used to have, of course, it's been improved on, is then when you needed to collect the card, you have to visit the next office. So there's human-to-human interaction. Now we're in a digital world where this could be digitalized and make it easier. So I want you to speak in that light.
I think in spite of the initial challenges, I'm one of those who first enrolled in that card. After the enrollment, I went to the local government as it was then. I couldn't even get the card. I had to re-enroll. That challenge was there, but I think with the improvement in technology and the ability to make a private public partnership has helped to sanitize that process. Therefore, in terms of the kind of vendors that have put in place to enroll people, that has reduced that initial challenge. So in terms of collection, currently, I don't think that would be a major problem. I think those were the initial hiccups that the Commission had when they started the process some 15 years ago or thereabout.
All right. Now, the new general multipurpose card is to act as a debit or prepaid card and facilitate access to various digital services. In your assessment or in your thinking of this, do you see the National Identification Management Commission veering off from its core mandate, which is to manage the identity of Nigerians? Do you see them going outside their scope in trying to have or give Nigerians a card that will also attend to financial services?
I think, though I don't speak for the Commission, I do know that they will have a legal department. If it's not within their core mandate, I don't think they will veer into that kind of service provision. Therefore, without looking at the act establishing that commission, I can say just on top of hand that that mandate will be within their core function. So therefore, trying to make it a general multipurpose card will be within their mandate. And I think the flow of the card shows first and foremost you are a Nigerian national. Then there are other platforms within that card that you can access based on the security platform that they put there for purchases, whether for debit, whether for credit. So once that security feature is placed in there, then I think it will be within their core mandate that they have that function. If they don't, they won't go in that direction.
So how would this new card help security? Nigeria has been challenged with security issues for a while now, and that was one of the reasons why the National Identity Card was introduced in the first place. So if you're having a card that is tied to a person's account, what's other benefit? What benefit does it bring to security?
First and foremost, number one that I mentioned earlier is to find a way to pull more people into that platform. That's in terms of those who are enrolled into the National Identity Card, so that we can determine our national security based on the identity of those who are Nigeria. Number two, they are in competition to some extent with the other people who provide the cards, even from those banks. They are independent producers that have those security chips that they produce for the banks that they use as ATM. So if they produce their own cards as well, that means they'll be in competition with other cards service provider, and that might push up the pricing for those cards eventually, and the amount that you'll be paying for cards will reduce drastically, because you have a bigger umbrella that just put the cards in one card, rather than having a card for a particular bank you have for another bank, or maybe you have a triple cards where you're able to put your card just in one. But the only challenge then is that when the card gets missing, you might run into a problem when you want to collect money, and then they will make more money in trying to replace that card. So I think that's just the only challenge. I don't see that they are going beyond their core mandate, in my view.
Now, while going through comments that trail this news as regards this card, I realized that, it's my personal observation, I realized that most Nigerians do not have proper understanding about this card, how it's going to work. Isn't that a responsibility on the part of NIMC? And my question to you is, what should be done to improve the level of awareness about this card importance, or the necessity of this card, and how it's going to work out, or the impact of this for Nigerians?
I think they need some level of advocacy and education from the Commission itself in terms of the features and the benefits of the cards. If you don't do that, people will be in limbo in a way, because when they look at the challenge of even getting the cards in terms of just providing identity was a problem. Therefore, the Commission must find a way to put appropriate mechanism in place in terms of educating Nigeria on the core benefits of having your card synchronized, your payment card synchronized with your national identity, as it's been practiced in the global north. So I don't think it's something that is just unique to Nigeria, but then they need a high level of education and advocacy to see how sustainable people can be brought into the platform, and they can use this card. That again will find a way to reduce the multiplicity of cards, and some of these fraudsters using some of these cards to dupe people of their hard-earned money might be reduced eventually.
All right, still looking at the card, what are those things that NIMC will have to do to encourage more enrollment? Now, many people tripped to NIMC centers to have to get enrolled for the National Identity Card when the NIN and the SIM card sync rule or policy came on. That seems to have been relaxed now, people going about their daily affairs. What needs to be done to ensure more enrollment of Nigerians?
I think for me, they just need to increase the number of vendors they use in terms of how people can get access to enroll into the scheme. They have done remarkably well in the last 2 years, where they recruited a lot of vendors, so you can work within your environment and you get a vendor that can enroll you, and that is processed within a shortest possible time. So they need more of vendors, particularly in the rural areas where people can enroll into that scheme. And for the additional services, more education is required in terms of public enlightenment to say that if you have your national identity card, you don't need to go and get an ATM or get any other point of sale card. That within that card, you have other features that you can use within the card. I think education is key.
Don't you think the available data as regards ATM cards and some of the other financial cards for financial services could also be a way to assist in data collection for this kind of special multipurpose card?
No, I think the idea is that if you put all your information in one gateway, I think that will help in terms of national security, in my view. Therefore, this clamor to have a general multipurpose card is in line with national security dimension of the country. So I think, in my view, is a welcoming development, but because it's just a new announcement, people are not really sure of what that card entails. But if you have an interaction with the Commission's website, I think the key elements are already put in infograph that shows the core benefits of having your cards domiciled with your national identity card.
Well, for what I'm saying is for bank users or those who have bank accounts, who have their BVN, you have their details already. There might not be need for new registration if this data are being synergized in a way that can be available for NIPSI to work on. That's what I'm talking about.
No, I think that's the point, because you have so much data all over the place. I think they are trying to harmonize those data, synchronize those data into the national identity card, which I think, in my view, is good and welcoming. So once you're able to do that, the multiplicity of service provider will reduce drastically.
Talking about using the card for banks. Now, this is also to increase financial inclusion, particularly for those in the rural area, this new card. But let's look at interoperability challenges, having the synergy between the necessary agencies and the necessary centers to make this card work. Now, if the card is to serve as debit or prepaid card, you would need the banks, you would need the agencies that normally make the ATM cards or the debit cards to work, to be in sync with NIMSI on this for the cards to be very functional.
I think in terms of functionality and the ecosystem that support the payment platform, I think that will be worked backstage. That cannot be put in the public domain because there are security implications when you talk about card management. So that will be done. Once you're able to synchronize those cards, even the other service provider, telecoms and all that, they have a role to play. But the National Identity Management Commission has the overall responsibility, core mandate, in terms of identity management. So all the ecosystem in terms of data privacy, security management are domiciled within that commission, and they're able to put the best forward in terms of how they relate with other security provider that enhance card payment platforms.
All right, away from the issue of the multipurpose card, let's talk about the visa application process in Nigeria. You're aware of what it is before now, even now, and the effort being made by the Minister of Interior to ensure that this is improved. Now, the plan is to see how the process of collection can be improved so that where you have bottleneck cases of human-to-human interaction, when you get to these offices, you're aware of what happens there. What do you make of these new plans by the new minister to ensure that the process of collection of visas made easier and even digitalized?
I think there's a confusion here. We have to make a distinction, and I think the information in the public space is perceived wrongly. I think what Tunde Ojo, the Minister for Interior, is speaking about is the process of getting visa to come into Nigeria. Is a different thing from passport collection. They are two different things. So I think people are not getting it right. There's a challenge of those who apply for Nigerian visas to come into Nigeria. The challenge, the process, the access to visa processes outside has been most difficult. So they're trying to put a process in place that will speed up the process of issuing visas to people coming to Nigeria. I think that's what the minister meant by visa. So why is it called responsibility of a country? Based on the 1966 and 1967 diplomatic and consular law, country put whatever visa regime of who can come into their country. So the process here, according to the Interior Minister, is to see how they can speed up the processes of getting visa to come into Nigeria. And you can see sometime last year, there was a reciprocal issue between the United States of America and Nigeria, where the process of Americans coming to Nigeria was very cumbersome, and they changed the visa regime to 5 years. Reciprocal, Americans used to give Nigerians 2 years visa because that process was getting too long. They made some diplomatic overture and it was changed. So once Americans are coming, they get a 5-year visa into Nigeria. So when you are going to the US as well, you get a minimum of 5 years visa. I think those are kind of assets that the minister was talking about, which is different from collection of passport, the process of collecting your passport. This is essentially about visa regime. That's how you issue visas to people who want to do business in Nigeria.
According to the Minister of Interior, in 2023, just about 2 million people foreigners visited Nigeria, which is a limitation when it comes to the kind of investment that Nigeria intends to attract. Could you build on that for us?
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is that why visa regulatory framework is domiciled within the country, issuing country. If you look at the number of people that visit Nigeria, either as visitors, either as investors, compared to the kind of opportunity that exists here, is a far cry. Therefore, there's a need to improve on the visa framework in terms of the processes and the timing regime at which people can process their visa to come into Nigeria, either for short stay or for business. And once people are able to come, that will improve on the investment outlook. And when even people come as tourists, the country will be beneficial. So in terms of efficiency, in terms of the processes which are commissions, high commissions elsewhere, they need to try to see how those regimes can quickly come into effect so that we can attract more visitors. Even the visa regime within African country must be improved upon. Why some other African countries having a policy framework that is visa-free, Nigeria equally should look at some of those framework to encourage even African to visit Nigeria so that we can benefit from visitors and those who come for businesses as well.
You know, maybe we should wrap up with this. The Minister of Interior was making a statement as regards the figure of the number of foreign passengers recorded last year. According to him, was less than 2 million compared to the population of the country now. There are those who argue that, which was what you were saying something in that regard, that this should be also be complemented with visa on arrival or free visa policy, just like what is being done in Rwanda and some of African nations. That apart from looking at the application process, that if this is added to it, it will also attract more investors and even foreign passengers into the country.
I agree with you, Femi, but what is essential really is to have, particularly for Africa, is to have a free visa regime policy like that of Rwanda. Where that is not possible, that ecosystem they are trying to develop, they can open up an e-visa regime. There are some countries that you travel to, you don't necessarily need to go to a consular department to be able to get a visa. The visas are issued and you have an e-visa, even from the country that you want to visit. But then what is more challenging is those who are coming for business. So we need to put a reciprocal regime in terms of the visa regime where, like in US and Nigeria, they have a 5-year regime. We need to improve this ecosystem to improve other countries so that we can attract more people in terms of those who want to make investment. There are more visitors should be encouraged to come in so that they can even have a feel of Nigeria beyond some of the international conspiracy and propaganda that Nigeria is not safe. At least there are some reports over the weekend of some visiting people who feel that Nigeria is a very, very safe place to come into.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam Orovwuje, for being on the show today.
Thank you very much indeed.
All right, we'll conclude with the words of the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tujunju, in this regard. Now, he says, quoting him now, once we get the visa policy right and we get the implementation framework perfect, then definitely the economic prosperity will come. We'll hope for this, and we hope it happens soonest for Nigeria. I am Blessing H. Many thanks for being a part of today's edition of the program, Early Exchange. It continues tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time. Stay with Sick News the rest of your day to enjoy the wonderful programs designed for your viewing delights, and enjoy your day.
And from me to you, irrespective of whatever is happening in the national space, it's also important for you to take charge of your life because you are the architect of your own fortune. Whatever you do with your life determines how your future is going to turn out. Don't forget, this conversation continues on our social media platform, and Any Exchange returns tomorrow. Your award-winning program and where the big story lives. I am Femi Ayodele. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.